So how will all of the discord in Washington, from hardball on immigration to no health care deal to insulting tweets, impact tax reform and the stock market? Jeff Bush is a partner at the Washington Update and joins us now to discuss. What do you make of all this, Jeff? It certainly is, as Tony Fratto just said, unusual to see the distractions coming from within, not from without.
Oh, you're absolutely right. The GOP has had this problem throughout 2017. Tax reform is a little bit unique compared to the Affordable Care Act repeal and replace effort, though. I think you're going to see a lot more togetherness on the tax reform issue than compared to other issues they've dealt with thus far.
What about health care then?
Healthcare was a different issue. When you have healthcare, you had Republican senators in states that expanded Medicaid. You had Republican governors in those same states, all of which were saying we have citizenry who are going to lose coverage if we change the expansion of Medicaid. So it was a taking away of a benefit, whereas tax reform, if properly positioned from a marketing perspective, should be a broad-based benefit to the middle class and across our country.
What do you make of what Eamon Javers suggested is the sort of internal view in Washington, namely that the GOP members who may squabble with the president personally, whether it's Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham or now Bob Corker, when push comes to shove, they will go along with tax reform because they see it as good for their constituents?
I generally agree with that. That was the same philosophy that the Republicans thought they had with the Affordable Care Act repeal and replace, although it got caught up in those other issues. But tax reform, again, I think is a little bit different animal. It's certainly a very complex animal, but there is much more of a cohesive thought around the broad benefits of a tax reform, and even within some moderate Democrats as well.
How much do you think, though, all of this squabbling in Washington is delaying the agenda? I mean, have you put an analysis together at all, Jeff, about like when we might expect some progress, because it keeps getting derailed and pushed back?
It does. That's a great point. We were quite surprised that the Republicans, having had 8 years to talk about the repeal and replace effort, didn't have the replace effort on the table ready for a Republican president to sign. I think that was a missed opportunity. If they could have gotten out of the gates a little bit faster with that issue, we'd be much further down the road as it relates to tax reform. Right now, our best estimate, based on everything we're looking at, is that we're not likely to get tax reform done in 2017. But it's still slightly more likely than not that we'll see some moderate tax cuts this year and then revisit the reform issue in 2018.
Is the market thinking everything is all A-OK, or is it being maybe a little naive? I mean, Senator Corker says we may be leading the way on a path to World War III. That could mess up your portfolio, Jeff.
Well, it certainly would mess up everyone's portfolio, without a doubt. But I think going back one step, the reality is our country has been on this path for some time. The Republicans have drawn this process out. That's not unusual in the president's first year as they get their footing and so forth. But I think the market initially, there was a lift from an idea of a Republican president, but I think that played out pretty much by May, and the market is much more based on fundamentals right now. I'm not saying it's a solid market run. I think it's a little bit fragile. It's looking for opportunities to maybe tweak here and there, but I think overall it's still on a fundamental trajectory at this point.
Jeff, thank you very much. Jeff Bush with the Washington Update.
Thank you.